Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Katie and today I'm going to be talking about 5 of my favorite romance-driven books. Alright, so these books aren't technically romance. I guess you can categorize like some of them as like romance contemporary or gothic romance, I guess. But in my opinion, like they're not just about romance. However, the romance is a major driving part of the plot. So these are 5 that I love. I'm not saying they're the best books in the world. They're just 5 that I love. And I'm doing this because it's February, the month of love. I hate that like cliche, but you know, it's fun to do. Alright, so number 1, my favorite ever. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Yeah, I understand like the hiding someone in the attic is problematic. But I also understand that insane asylums were horrible, horrible places to send people in the 1800s in England. So I like to see it from the perspective that the character who keeps someone in the attic was doing it out of like protection. I'm not saying this character is perfect. They're extremely flawed, but I still love them. So basically, if you haven't read Jane Eyre or know anything about Jane Eyre, it is classic. It is a gothic romance. It is by Charlotte Bronte, written in the 1800s, and it takes place in England. Jane is a governess, which is basically an at-home like teacher-tutor for wealthier people. And so she goes to this place called Thornfield, and she doesn't know, so she goes to teach this little girl named Adele, and Adele is a French immigrant, and all she knows is that the master of the house has adopted this child, and she doesn't really know if she is his biologically or not, but he's not there when she first arrives. She gets along with Adele, yeah, that's what I said, right? Adele. She gets along with Adele fine, or great, actually. And she really comes to love living at Thornfield. And then her employer, Mr. Rochester, comes home. And at first, they kind of, I don't want to say they don't get along, but he's not, like, he's very abrasive. And he's very brooding. And, you know, your typical gothic romance guy. Why do I love this book so much? I love people who educate. I'm an educator myself. So, like, first off, like, even though I read this before I was ever an educator, I wanted to be a teacher, and I was like, I love Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre is an amazing character. She has amazing qualities, and I strive to be like her in my life. So that is number 1, but I really do enjoy the romance and how they're equals intellectually. That's really big for me. And though I don't even think Jane's that flawed. Like, of course everyone's flawed, but like she's pretty perfect to me. But you know, the male love interest, he's not perfect, but they're pretty perfect for each other, you know. All right, next romance-driven book that I love so much is Love and Gelato by Jenna Welch. I feel like I've mentioned this on my channel already like 4 times. I love this book. This is a YA contemporary. It's about a girl whose mother dies, and her dying wish is for her to go spend the summer, if not like live in Italy, with a man that she says was the best man she ever knew. And so she goes to Italy and she meets new people. Meanwhile, she's also finding all these things out about her mother and her father who she never knew. And it's kind of like unraveling all these like mysterious things about her mother that her mother never told her, all while like falling in love with someone in that love story happening. And I just loved how it intertwined. I like the character's 17, I want to say, maybe 16. And she's really not, like, every once in a while she does something. She doesn't ever annoy me, which is important. I mean, when she's upset, it's usually for legitimate reasons. Oh, I guess there's one part where she's like, oh my god, I'm in a cemetery and I don't like cemeteries. I, like, can't stand when people are like, cemeteries are creepy. like, respect the dead. They're cool. I love cemeteries, personally. I don't know. But other than that, and that is, like, extremely tiny, like, aspect of the book, I just really love the story. I love that it's about family and friendship and love. Next is a series, not necessarily a one book, because, like, I can't even imagine if you just read one of them and, like, not figured out what happens. Whatever. Okay, so it's the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare. I don't have any of them. They're in my class library for my students. But I really just enjoy the story. And it's a love triangle, but I love all three characters in this love triangle. The Infernal Devices is a YA fantasy. Though I would say out of all of Cassandra Clare's series, this one has less fantasy than the other two. It's part of the Shadowhunters series, so if you have ever heard of Shadowhunters, there are Shadowhunters in this series. But what I like about it is it takes place in the 1800s, and it really plays off Gothic romance, like classic Gothic romance. So all those parallels mixed with the really lovable, like, three characters just made me really enjoy it. This is definitely a series where I was in it for the characters, not necessarily the plots, because the overall arcing plot is probably, out of her three series, in my opinion, the weakest, but the characters are just so lovable, I didn't care. Next book is one I'm sure everyone here has heard of, and that is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. And I would recommend all three, though the second one's my least favorite. I just think the main character, what is her name? Laura Jean. I just think Laura Jean is such a sweetie and, like, a really good sister and a really good daughter. And I think the bonds between her and her sisters, as well as, you know, the romances, are really amazing. And just, like, yeah, the family aspect mixed with the love drama and sweet love moments are balanced really well. Lastly, the book another romance-driven book that I love is The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. This is a YA contemporary, and now I feel, after I've seen Murphy Nepier's video of this, like, she can't stand this book, and, like, I understand why, but, like, I just adore it. So basically you have your main character, Molly, and she has a twin sister, and her sister's, like, very flirtatious and outgoing and, like, good with, like, romance, and she's not, and she's very insecure, and she has a weight issue, and she just, like, she always crushes on boys, but she never, like, dates. And so it's kind of about her finding her first love and the way she sabotages herself, honestly. But she, like, works through it. And so I can see how someone would be, like, really annoyed with her because she is a self-sabotager. But as someone as a kindred self-saboteur, I don't even know if that's a word, but as a kindred one, I understand her choices, I understand her mistakes, and I just thought she was adorable, and I thought the love interest was super adorable, and together they were even more adorable. Alright, so those are 5 of my favorite romance-driven books for this month of love. I hope you enjoyed. This has been Katie's Bookish Escape. Please feel free to comment down below with any thoughts and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.